Welcome to SDN Tech Networking.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the place where we cut through the noise and get straight to the insights that will make you truly well-informed. Today we're tackling something that sounds like a potential game changer for anyone just drowning in operational complexity. We're talking Cisco Workflows, and our mission is pretty clear. Unpack this advanced multi-domain automation and orchestration engine. Think of it maybe as your new secret weapon. It's designed to simplify even, the really convoluted tasks, integrate systems that don't normally talk to each other easily, and empower you to automate like never before. And here's the kicker, all without writing a single line of code. We're going to show you not just what it does, but why it matters, and how it might just transform your approach to IT.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating here, I think, is that this isn't just another tool on paper, not just theory. It's a very pragmatic solution, built really from the ground up to eliminate those repetitive, error-prone tasks we all hate. But it's more than that, too. It provides a comprehensive, auditable trail for every single action taken across your network infrastructure, sure, but also beyond. That offers both efficiency and peace of mind, which is a big deal. Let's dig into how it actually pulls that off.
Okay, let's unpack that. When we talk about Cisco Workflows, I think maybe the first thought for many might be, oh, is this just a Meraki thing?
Yeah.
But the sources are pretty clear. It's much, much bigger than that. So what exactly are we talking about here? And why is this multi-domain capability so important?
That's a really excellent point to start with, because while Workflows is, yes, seamlessly integrated into the Meraki dashboard, it's actually a powerful, independent automation engine designed to automate, well, pretty much anything. The key insight, I think, is its ability to talk to any system that speaks a common language, like a REST API that's just a standard way software, talks over a network, or an SSH interface, for secure command line stuff.
Okay.
And this broad compatibility, it means we're talking automating everything from Cisco controllers, Catalyst Center, ISE, ThousandEyes, ACI, Nexus Dashboard, Intersight, Webex. The list goes on, all the way to IoT devices and even third-party tools you might already be using.
Wow.
And the multi-domain part means it can orchestrate actions across these different platforms. It handles tasks that, traditionally would require manual handoffs or lots of custom scripting between systems.
Right, the complex stuff.
Yeah.
So the big promise then is that you don't need to be a programmer. If you can use something visual like Microsoft Visio, you can use Cisco Workflows. Honestly, that sounds almost too good to be true for something this powerful. How does it deliver?
Yeah, it's a big claim, but it really comes down to visual programming and abstraction. Workflows uses a drag-and-drop canvas. You build your automation visually, putting blocks together. Each block is a task. You connect them logically. And this whole approach, it bypasses the need for complex code syntax. That makes advanced automation accessible to way more people. It basically democratizes IT orchestration. You're focusing on the what and the why, not the how, in terms of actual code.
That definitely grabs your attention. Okay, so for someone just starting out, where do we begin? Let's maybe take a quick tour of the dashboard itself, get a feel for the main parts.
Absolutely. Good idea. So the heart of it all is the workspace. This is your central hub, your mission control, if you like, where you view, create, edit all your automations. It's built for efficiency, so you'd get good filtering, searching, helps manage things as your library of workflows grows.
Right, because you could end up with a lot of them.
Exactly.
And once you've launched one, how do you keep track of what's actually going on? Because, debugging and auditing, that's often where the hidden time cost is in automation.
Precisely. And that's where run monitoring comes in. It's absolutely crucial for both debugging and auditing. Cannot stress that enough. You can watch each step execute in real time or look at it after it's finished, post-mortem.
Or after. Okay.
Yeah. And it gives you full granular details, variables, their values, the exact path the logic took, any errors. This transparency makes debugging incredibly effective and, like you said, provides that full audit trail for compliance.
So we've got our automations in the workspace. We can monitor them, but they need something to act on, right?
Yeah.
That brings us to targets. What exactly are those?
Correct. Targets define what your workflows run against. It's how Workflows knows, which system to interact with. A target could be a Meraki domain, sure, but also Cisco ISE, Catalyst Center, maybe an external web service, or really any other third-party thing. And Workflows comes with some predefined target types built in, like HTTP endpoints or Meraki endpoints that simplifies getting connected initially.
Okay, so Workflows is like the central brain coordinating things. But how does it handle logging into all these different systems securely? That's usually a headache. API keys, credentials?
Yeah, that's managed through account keys. And this is a critical security piece. It's how authentication is handled. You securely store your secret API keys, maybe a Meraki org key or an OpenAI key, whatever, right there.
Okay.
The targets then use those keys to authenticate. And what's really clever here, I think, is that Workflows handles the complex stuff like token management for you.
So you don't have to code the token refresh logic.
Exactly. No need to code the whole life cycle of getting, using, refreshing temporary security tokens. Workflows does that heavy lifting behind the scenes, big time saver, and reduces security risks.
That makes a huge difference. Okay, so we've got targets secured with account keys. Now, how do we actually start these automations? How do you trigger a workflow?
Right, that's handled by rules. You get a lot of flexibility here. You can set up various triggers, things like webhooks, which let you launch them programmatically from outside.
Okay, like from another application.
Precisely. Or calendar events for scheduled tasks, run this every night at 2 a.m., or other automation rules tied to specific events happening in your infrastructure. The real insight here, I think, is how rules turn automation from just scheduled stuff into an event-driven system. Your infrastructure can proactively react to changes or external triggers in real time. It moves beyond just efficiency towards a truly responsive network.
That's powerful. And finally, variables. This sounds familiar from coding, but how do they work here for non-programmers? Are they like placeholders?
Exactly. Variables are basically globally available bits of information you can use and change within your workflows. Think of them as smart placeholders. They let you share information between different steps or even between different workflows without having to redefine the data every time.
So reusable data points.
Yeah. And you can define them as inputs, what you feed in, outputs, what comes out, or local variables that just exist for that one run. Supports different types too: text strings, JSON objects for structured data, lists of text. This flexibility is really key to building dynamic, reusable automations that aren't just fixed scripts.
Okay, that tour really paints a picture of the power under the hood. But the real question is always, okay, cool, how do I actually do something with this? Let's maybe roll up our sleeves, metaphorically speaking, and build a simple one. How about just calling a public web service to get some data, like a basic API call?
Perfect example. We can use a public service called JSON Placeholder. It's fantastic, it's free, great for testing APIs, lets you simulate fetching data without any complex setup.
Okay, JSON placeholder. So step one would be define that as a target. So Workflows knows where to find it.
Exactly right. You'd go create a new target, choose HTTP endpoint, give it a clear name like JSON Placeholder Web Service. And for this public one, conveniently, no account keys needed. Just makes testing easier. You'd tell it the host is jsonplaceholder.typicode.com over HTTPS port 443.
Simple enough. Then we create the actual workflow itself.
That's right. Start a blank custom workflow. Name it something obvious like FEC users. Then from the web service adapter section, you just drag an HTTP request activity onto your canvas.
Drag and drop. Okay.
Yep. Configure that block. Set its target to the JSON placeholder web service target you just made. And then define the relative URL that's the bit after the main address as users. And set the method to get because we want to retrieve data.
Okay. Makes sense. Then the moment of truth. Validation and running it. Does it just work?
Well, almost. There's a validation step. First, it's like a sanity check. Make sure your workflow structure is sound before it tries to run.
Good idea.
Once it validates, you hit run. If everything's right, green box, success. And critically, you'll see the raw JSON response pop up. All the user data from the web service. It immediately shows you, look, I just connected to an external system with a few clicks.
That's great for getting all the data, but often you don't want everything, right? You just want specific bits. Say, from that whole JSON blob, I only want the usernames. How do we zero in on that without writing code?
Right. This is where we start refining things. To pull out specific information from that JSON response, you use a JSON path query activity.
JSON path?
Yeah, think of it like XPath, but for JSON. It's a way to precisely navigate and grab specific data points from those nested JSON structures.
Okay.
You drag that activity onto the canvas right after your HTTP request. You tell it sources the body from the HTTP request result, and then you use a simple query notation, something like add or name, to say, get me all the name fields. This lets you pull out exactly what you need, turning raw data into something actually useful.
That's really cool for a basic call and pull. But, the real world is rarely that simple or static. How do we make these workflows smarter, more adaptable, dynamic?
This is where Workflows really starts to show its power. We bring in input variables. This gives you huge flexibility. So imagine you duplicate that fetch user's workflow, but instead of hard-coding users in the URL, you add an import variable. Let's call it operation. Now, when you run the workflow, the user can type in users or posts or comments. You just map that input variable to the HTTP request's relative URL path. Suddenly, your fixed task becomes a flexible tool that reacts to what the user wants.
I see. That makes it way more versatile. But wait, what if the operation changes from users to posts? The data structure might be different, right? Posts might have a title field, not a name. Wouldn't that break our name JSON bath query?
Exactly. Good catch. That's where conditionals come in. They let your workflow make intelligent decisions based on the situation. You'd add a conditional block from the logic adapter. Maybe one branch handles the case where operation equals users. Inside that branch, you use the .name query.
Okay.
And another branch handles operation equals posts. Inside that one, you use a different query, like .title. This lets your workflow automatically adapt its parsing logic based on the input. It always extracts the right data, even if the structure changes. Smart, right?
That is smart. Very clever. But, okay, what if the user types in something totally invalid? Like operations widgets, and the service has no idea what that is? You don't want the workflow to just crash or fail silently.
Absolutely not. Robustness requires good error handling. That's critical. You can use another conditional for this. You check the HTTP request's error code, not just the status code like 200 OK. Specifically, look for maybe a 404 not found. If you detect that error, the workflow can take a specific path. Use a completed logic activity, set it to failed, and maybe use a set variable activity to create a clear error message in an output results variable, something like invalid operation passed to workflow.
Okay, so it fails gracefully and tells you why.
Exactly. But here's a key detail. You need to enable continue execution on failure on the HTTP request activity before the conditional check. That way, the workflow doesn't stop dead on the error. It continues to the conditional block, which can then catch the error and handle it properly. This turns a brittle script into something resilient.
Got it. That makes sense for single fields. But data often has multiple parts, right? What if I need name and email for users, not just one piece?
Good question. For that, we use tables. It goes beyond simple JSON path for single fields. There's an activity called read table from JSON in the table adapter. It can pull out multiple fields at once, like name and email for users, or maybe ID and title for posts, and structure them neatly into a table format right within the workflow.
Like a spreadsheet inside the workflow.
Sort of, yeah. It's incredibly useful for handling more complex data sets. You can even persist a table to save that structured data for use later, maybe in other steps or even other workflows.
Okay, so you've got this table of data. How do you then process each item in the table? Say you polled 100 users, and you need to do something specific for each one.
That's where loops come in. Specifically, you'd use a for each loop from the logic adapter.
Makes sense.
This lets you iterate, go through each row of your table one by one, whether it's a list of users, devices, networks, whatever. And inside that loop, you can put more logic, maybe another conditional to find a match for a specific username you're looking for.
Okay, loop through, check each one.
Right, and if you find the match, use set a variable to store maybe the corresponding email address in an output matching result variable. This nesting of logic loops containing conditionals containing other actions gives you immense power. You can process large data sets, perform targeted actions, filter. It brings the scalability of scripting to the visual environment.
So putting this all together, variables, conditionals, error handling, tables, loops, what does this mean for like day-to-day operations?
Yeah.
We're building some pretty sophisticated stuff now.
We really are. When you combine all these elements, you're not just automating simple tasks anymore. You're building, essentially, intelligent agents. It means your operations can become way more adaptive and resilient. Instead of rigid scripts that break if anything changes, you have dynamic systems. They respond to different inputs, make decisions, handle errors gracefully, process complex data, all visually configured.
Right.
This drastically cuts down manual work, speeds up fixing problems, and ensures much higher consistency and reliability. It gives you real operational agility.
That level of control is impressive. Now, workflows on its own, clearly very powerful, but often the real magic happens when tools start talking to other tools or integrating things like, AI. How does workflows extend its reach?
Good point. One key integration is with GitHub. This tackles a really vital aspect of serious automation: version control, and collaboration. Workflows lets you connect directly to Git repositories, like api.github.com. You can import workflows from there, manage them.
Because the workflows themselves are just JSON files, right?
Exactly. They're just JSON underneath. So GitHub gives you a robust, version-controlled environment, track changes, work with a team, roll back if something goes wrong. Just like standard code development practices, very important for managing automations properly.
Definitely. And what about triggering workflows from outside, from other applications maybe?
That's where webhooks come in. They give you that programmatic access for remote launching. Basically, you can trigger a workflow from almost any external application that can make a web request.
How does that work?
You create a webhook endpoint within Workflows. It gives you a unique URL and an API key for security. Then you tie that webhook to trigger a specific workflow using an automation rule. Now, from your external system, you can just use a simple curl command that's a common tool for web requests, hit that URL with the key.
Okay.
And here's the cool part. You can pass dynamic data, a JSON payload, as part of that curl command. Your workflow can then grab that payload, use JSON path to extract input variables from it, and act accordingly. This enables truly event-driven automation initiated from anywhere.
Python is everywhere in automation. Lots of teams have existing Python scripts they rely on. Can they bring those into workflows, or is it a completely separate world?
No, definitely not separate. The Python integration is often called the get-out-of-jail-free card. It offers tremendous flexibility. You can integrate existing Python code or write new scripts directly inside a workflow using a Python activity.
Yeah.
You can easily pass workflow variables into your Python script. The script does its thing, and then you map the results out to be used by the next steps in the workflow. It supports standard Python functions. It's based on a recent version, Python 3.12.3, and even includes common libraries like requests for making HTTP calls from the script if needed, although there are caveats.
That sounds incredibly useful. Are there limitations, security concerns maybe?
Yes, absolutely. And they're important, primarily for security and InfoSec compliance. The Python code running inside workflows cannot make arbitrary external network connections itself.
Ah, okay, so it's sandboxed.
Pretty much. Nor can it just import any Python library it wants, like maybe a specific Meraki SDK or a Catalyst Center SDK. This design keeps your environment secure. Workflows maintain strict control over external comms and libraries, preventing potential security holes. So you have to pass all the necessary data into the script via variables, let the script process it, and then pass the results out.
That makes sense from a security perspective.
Oh.
Okay, this leads to the big question, AI. Everyone's talking about AI. Can workflows tap into large language models, LLMs, to add that kind of intelligence?
Yes, and this is a very exciting area. The AI LLM actions are a really transformative capability. They bring AI intelligence directly into your automation workflows, and they can significantly reduce complexity, especially for tasks involving, say, unstructured text or complex data transformations.
How'd that work?
Well, you can basically offload entire analysis or correlation tasks to an LLM. You configure an LLM target, maybe OpenAI or an Azure AI endpoint, specify the model like GPT-4 Mini or something, and then you craft prompts, chat prompts, system prompts to tell the AI what its role is and what you want it to do.
So you're programming the AI with natural language.
Kind of, yeah. Imagine you pull health data from two different systems, slightly different JSON formats. Instead of complex manual parsing and matching, you could just send both JSON blobs to the LM and say, hey, analyze these, correlate the device health info, and give me a clean summary of critical issues for device XYZ.
Wow.
The LLM can potentially handle that complex correlation and summarization, making your workflow much simpler. The key, though, is careful prompt engineering. You need to ensure you still get deterministic, reliable results, especially for critical operations. Can't have hallucinating network changes.
Right. Reliability is key. That level of abstraction is amazing. But sometimes automation needs a human. What if a workflow needs someone to make a decision or give an okay mid-run? You can't always fully automate everything safely.
Exactly right. And that's what user tasks and approvals are for. They provide that crucial human-in-the-loop capability. There's a create prompt activity. It lets you pause the workflow and ask a specific question, request input from a human.
Like asking for confirmation.
Or even dynamic input. For example, a workflow could fetch a list of available Meraki users from an API, present them in a drop-down menu to the person running the workflow, and wait for them to select one.
Oh, interesting.
The user gets a notification, goes to the user tasks section in the dashboard, makes their choice, and boom, the workflow resumes using the input they provided.
And approvals are similar, but more formal, like a go-no-go.
Yes, exactly. Approvals work in a similar human-in-the-loop way, but it's specifically for getting an explicit approve or reject decision. You put a request approval activity in your workflow. It pauses, waits until a designated person or group approves or rejects it, and critically, you need a conditional check right after that approval step to see what the decision was, and then branch the workflow logic accordingly. Go ahead if approved, maybe stop and escalate if rejected.
So that ensures critical changes always get human sign-off.
Precisely. It balances the speed of automation with the control and wisdom of human oversight.
So what does this mean for operational flexibility then? Being able to weave human steps into the automation seems like the final piece for making this truly practical in complex environments.
It's absolutely crucial, I think. It means your automations aren't just rigid, hands-off processes. They can be designed to include human intervention exactly where it's needed, whether that's for inputting data, validating something complex, or giving explicit approval for a high-impact change. This human-in-the-loop capability builds trust in automation, prevents unintended consequences, and ultimately enables a much more flexible and resilient way of operating. You get the best of both worlds: automation speed, human judgment.
These features sound incredibly powerful, really versatile. Let's try and make this really concrete for listeners. Can you give us a couple of compelling, real-world examples? How are people using workflows today to solve actual problems?
Sure. One that comes up a lot is managing large Meraki setups. Imagine you have dozens, maybe hundreds of Meraki organizations, and you need to find all the networks tagged golden for compliance or maybe audit security settings across all of them.
Yeah, manually logging into each one would take forever.
Exactly. It's a nightmare. With Workflows, you can build a Meraki organizational search. The workflow iterates through all your orgs, then through all networks within each org, filtering by an input tag like golden.
It just finds them all.
Finds them all, compiles a consolidated report instantly. It's not just faster, it gives you visibility and control that was practically impossible before, saves countless hours, ensures consistency. Massive win for large Meraki users.
Okay, that's a huge time saver.
Yeah.
What about integrating with other Cisco stuff, like ISE? Identity Services Engine can be complex to set up consistently.
Absolutely. A really great example is NAC deployment with Cisco ISE. Setting up network access control, 802.1x radius authentication for wireless using ISE. It involves multiple steps across Meraki and ISE.
Right, configuring the SID, the radius servers, adding the APs to ISE.
Exactly. Complex, easy to make mistakes. A workflow can automate the entire thing. It creates the wireless network in Meraki, sets up 802.1x pointing to ISE. And here's the really clever part. It can automatically discover the Meraki access points in your network and add them to the ISE server as radius clients, as network devices.
It adds the APs automatically.
Ensures seamless authentication right from the start. And this whole complex multi-system process, it can even be kicked off using the AI assistant within Workflows. Turns hours of careful manual work into a single, reliable, automated job.
Wow.
It's a perfect example of Workflows acting as that glue between different Cisco systems, wiping out manual config errors and ensuring consistent security.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, these aren't just isolated automations. It feels like it's building towards a platform for operational intelligence, letting IT teams do more, maybe even more complex things, but with less manual effort.
That's exactly it. It shifts IT operations from being reactive and manual towards being proactive and automated. By providing that cross-domain view and orchestration, Workflows really becomes an engine for more intelligent operations overall.
We have covered a huge amount of ground today.
Wow.
From just navigating the dashboard, building that first simple web call, all the way to sophisticated logic with variables, loops, error handling, integrating GitHub, Python, even AI, and human approvals. Cisco Workflows, it's clearly a potential game changer. It seems like it's about much more than just automating single tasks.
It really is. It's about creating an integrated ecosystem, something that's auditable, intelligent, that reduces the grind of manual effort, helps ensure compliance, enables faster proactive responses, and connects systems that were previously silos in really powerful new ways. It's about giving IT teams the tools to build truly adaptive infrastructure.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Here's maybe a thought to mull over. Imagine those repetitive cross-domain tasks that are currently bogging down your team. What if you could automate those tomorrow? Free up your sharpest people for real innovation. What hidden glue could Workflows provide between your existing tools to unlock completely new efficiencies and insights? Something to think about. That's all for this deep dive. We hope you're feeling well informed and maybe a little inspired to explore the possibilities.